Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the beautiful circuit of Misano. And it is great to be back for round 4 of the ERA Sunday Championship. And it's a little bit of a chillier time here. It's nice and bright, but is a bit on the cold side. Welcome to Misano, located out in the beautiful circuit of Male Rigoni, Italy. And it's good to have you guys joining us here tonight around this 4.2 kilometer circuit, 16 corners, opened in 1972 and is now 53 years old. So a massive happy birthday coming to the track that was opened on the 4th of August. Now, it's had some interesting names of the past. Misano World Circuit from 2007 all the way to 2012. It was a Circuito International Santa Monaco Misano in 1998 to 2006, and Autodrome Santa Monaco on 1972 to 1997. That being said, tonight it is the first round. It's the 4th round of the championship, and our drivers are looking to really step up the pace here tonight, and they're looking to stay at the sharp end of the field. Now, that being said, let's take a look down to our drivers who are on their way with the first of the qualifying. So we got our golds currently out on the track setting their qualifying times. They've been given 10 minutes to get themselves sorted out and all the way to the sharp end of the field. However, they will need to be really on form here tonight because, well, if we look over to the championship points, it's Diego Matos who currently holds the lead in the championship on 37 points, but utilized his drop round because he was not around for the likes of Indianapolis. Now he's going to be out looking to have a stellar fight. And just taking a look down our grid, I actually don't see him going and participating tonight. So this would be a drop for him as well, going and making a little bit on the rougher side. We do have a couple of names out as we seem to be having some technical issues. We'll try and just get that sorted out for everyone. Finley Gamble holds on to second place and is out going and fighting his way towards the top. The question is, can he keep it all in check out here on the track? Yet again, it's going to be a tough time for our competitors and trying to really keep up the fight. Nico Lawrence holds on to third after having a bit of a rough run in Indianapolis. Kyalami wasn't his best, but did score the fastest lap at Valencia last weekend. So that was Nico Lawrence got no points at Kyalami. Fortunately, he didn't go and score big there and lost out, but got a 12th at Valencia. So he's up to 30 points at the moment. Christian Fingler holds on to 4th place with Lewis Knight, our defending champion, looking to fight his way through. And quickly just going to pop out of the server and then return just to find out what exactly is going on. So give us 2 seconds as we take a look at the circuit here at Misano, and drivers looking to really dial up the wick. That being said, round 4, never an easy time as the drivers are getting closer and closer to the end of the championship. They've got to keep in mind not to go and have a fault. You need to keep on that top pace. And Lewis Knight, a defending champion from last season, holds on to 5th place. He's only scored the fastest lap once. And unfortunately, he has not been able to go and run himself to the top of the podium the whole time. And that has definitely thrown him down the list. And he's going to be looking for every opportunity to try and move forward. And with that, he's getting chased down by Hunso Foss on 17 points. Tristan Auckland was not at Indianapolis, but came 12th at Kyalami and managed to score 1 point at Valencia. Holds on to 13th points in front of L. Perry, who at the moment sits on 12th. Richard Van Eed returning to the sim after quite some time. He's more than happy to be in 9th place at the moment, with Patrick Bells chasing him down in that 10th position. So we got a couple of drivers looking to really stand up through the order and really put their fight back in. And it looks like we may have just got cameras back to the circuit. So we'll get that all on view for everyone to see. And at least get us back up on the top. So this is going to be an interesting race nonetheless, I do think we got a number of drivers really looking forward to going and standing at the sharp end of the field, and will be going and fighting their way to the top end. Now, we did see Rafa Sosa last weekend. Unfortunately, final lap, 2 corners to go, lose it at the end, and that allowed our 8-time champion that's trying to reclaim that championship after losing out in season 17 to his very own teammate, Ernest Lindbergs, who was able to capture that top end. And now drives in the McLaren, will be trying to move up through the order. Rafa Sosa was one of our championship contenders, and he will be doing everything he can to stay in for the fight. Unfortunately, taking a little bit of an L last time did not quite help him out, and he will be going and thinking, all right, what do I need to do to stay at the sharp end and to really put the fight back in? So as we go quickly back to our circuit right here at the beautiful, beautiful track of Misano. Everyone trying to get that little bit more of a run. Finley Gamble out in first place at the moment. Managed to put in a 133.1 and trying to really dial it up at the moment with Tristan Ocleon chasing down at a rate of knots. A 133.542. So just a little bit of time separating them. And hopefully Tristan will be really in for the fight. At the moment, a little bit further back, Rich Van Heed out in third place. Patrick Bell's right behind him, and we've got Barry Gibbons chasing down. Ulrich Diaga keeping up the fight for the Griffin Sim Racing team, while Lewis Knight, the defending champion, out in 7th, coming across the line. Unfortunately, not going to be his best lap this time round, but is really doing everything he can to stay in for the fight. David Christie holding on to 8th place, and Cedric Muir in 9th. El Perry is yet to come out of the box and set a lap. But a massive, massive welcome to everyone joining us right around the world at the beautiful circuit of Misano for round 4 of the ERA Sunday Championship. We've got Crazy Stunts, Ruan Heineken, and so many more joining us. It's wonderful to have you guys around. I'm looking forward to some great racing. We are nearly at the end of our gold qualifying. It's 1 minute 40 left in this qualifying for the gold division. We've got 3 divisions here. Tonight, gold, along with our platinum and diamonds that are going to be fighting it out. Golds are all in the red. They are setting the pace at the moment. They would count as your Pro-Am drivers. Now, at the moment, Lewis Knight and Cedric Muir currently up on their time. Cedric is the highest out of everyone at this stage of the game. Unfortunately, it looks like he managed to foul up that last corner, and that took away some of the delta down to 0.01 and fighting to reclaim it. Well, it's Barry Gibbons who's managed to launch his way up. He's currently holding in 4th, 0.3 up on his personal best. Is this going to be enough for the Mustang driver to really give it everything he's got? Carrying a lot of momentum, really utilizing those anti-cup curves, really gets into the final corner, flat on the gas. It's 0.3 up. He's going to give it everything he's got right to the line. Can he get it into first? With a 133.8, he moves up into third with a 133.5, sets himself up for a good run. Just for the last 30 seconds, he was able to move a little bit more forward. Finley Gamble and Tristan Ocleon hold on to first and second for now. That 133.157 yet to be beaten, but the final sector was set the fastest by Barry. The second sector, the first sector was set by this man here, 23.3. Rich Van Heed, who comes across the line, unfortunately unable to improve. And it was Finley Gamble that was able to do incredibly well in this middle sector. So Finley still holding on for that little bit of a rush. But we have now run out of time for our gold division. And it's time for our platinums out on the track. Chris Beer, Mr. Herman Whitner out on track with Henry Platt in the Moscow colours. Andre Sorodio holds on to 18th with Rick Thomas trying to go and chase down. Dev Young and Daniel Mutzler will be joining out on the grid as well to really move their way up through the fight. David Roth holds the championship lead on 40 points, yet to drop around, taking a victory in all 3 rounds thus far, and will be looking forward to carrying that little bit of momentum through. And David Roth, not one to be caught out, will be really giving it that extra little bit. Chris Wall holds on second place on 32 points, tied with Henry Platt. So the LNR driver versus the Moscow Motorsport are right on top of one another, and it just takes Chris Wall to have one bad race and he's in for a bit of a problem. But Henry Platt has utilized his his drop route, and that was at Indianapolis. Unfortunately, was not able to make it to the track, and he has to make sure he's on point for the rest of the season. Herman Whitner holds on to 4th place, with David Young holding on to the top 5. Rick Thomas, a little bit further down in 6th position. He'll be hoping to carry that little bit of momentum that little bit further into the race, and hopefully getting ahead of his teammates. David Borschke holds on to 7th place, but is not here tonight, unfortunately, so he'll be losing out some critical points to Chris Biermeister, who holds on to 8th position. Andre Sorodio holds on to 9th position. He's so far had a stellar run, but it doesn't look like, now, well, forgive me for saying that, there he is, Andre Sorodio, waiting in pits. Daniel Mutsuma will be running in 10th position, with SM Domingo holding 11th position and only been in 1 round, and that was Kailani. So, a bit of a shake-up coming in from our competitors there in our Platinum division, as they're looking to set blistering lap times so far, and hoping to make it really work underneath them to really close up the distances between one another, and ultimately see who can really give it that extra little bit of pace right here at the beautiful track of Misano, where it's all about that little push right to the end. So at the top of the chart, still Finley Gamble holding on for that 133.1. And at the moment, it looks like Henry Platt not hanging around. He wants to try and get to the top of the leaderboard and put a banker lap time in there. Chris Biermeister as well. Herman Whitner, first one to come and put a valid lap time on the board for the Platinum division. A 134.1 as he gets into 7th position. Rick Thomas goes and slides in to 10th position at the moment. The only 2 of the cars they've been able to put a proper time on the board, but we're going to see changes there as Henry Platt comes through. And next one's going to be as Chris Biermeister. David Roth out of the final corner, giving it one big push, getting himself geared up in that Honda NSX GT3, and then moved him up into 2nd place for his first flying lap, a 133.4. Now trying to close down to Finley Gamble's 133.1. 6 minutes on the board for our Platinum division to really dial up that work, to really close down at the sharp end of the field. Chris Wall, who currently holds 2nd place, the Logistical Nightmare Racing Aston Martin driver, looking to try and move his way back up through the order and take the fight to the sharp end. Now trying to really go sleeves off and belly his way through. Daniel Mutsuma comes through, and he's on for a splendid time as he boots himself up right into 5th place. 133.6 on that lap. Daniel, all the way out from Japan, not hanging around, wanting to take the fight to the sharp end of the field and seeing what he can do. Herman Whitner, round the final corner, stands on the gas, giving it that final push. 0.5 up on his time. Can he move into the top 5? He does come across the line, moves himself up into 5th place. 133.5. Let's see how the rest of the grid is going to react to that, as Henry Platt is next to come through. Henry Platt, 0.2 up on his time, runs out wide, utilizing a lot of that anti-cut curb, just trying to go and move a bit forward. 134.2 still remains in 10th position. Rick Thomas trying to give it a big push as well. David Young, Chris Biermeister, as they give it that last little run. Sorodio out on track in the Honda NSX from Project Vapor. Will need to set a lap time as well. Here comes Chris Wall, needs to set a 133 to be competitive as he boots his way through across the line. This guy is banker at time, and he gets a 133.8 on that last run. Slides him up to 8th position, and now with the tyres sufficiently warm, He needs to give it that little bit of a push. It is a bit of a colder day here at the beautiful track at Misano. However, it's all about giving that last little push to the end. Chris Biermester giving it that little bit of a run with David Young trying to close up the Delta 1 Racing, not to be caught out there. Rick Thomas currently 0.06 up on his time, just not quite finding that pace underneath him, but it's going to be David Roth to be keeping an eye out. A 1:33.2 was set by him on his banker lap. Finley gambled at a 1:33.1, and that was right towards the end of his qualifying session. Will David Roth be able to improve it? It does look like if he holds the pace right now, 0.2 up, really utilizing every inch of the circuit. If you bought it, you got it. He's got to try and use every bit of it. 0.043 behind Finley Gamble, and at the moment, he is on for the run. Down into the final corner. This is going to move him up into first place. David Roth boots it across the line and does go and move up in... Oh, no, he does not. My heavens. Right at the last, he went and ran out and utilized a bit of a track cut. So would have been a 1:33 dead. But unfortunately, he went and invalidated that lap, which holds him back in for second place with 12 minutes left on the board, 2 minutes and 48 seconds left for our Platinum qualifying. And at the moment, there's a number of drivers that are finding themselves out of place. Andre Sorodio yet to get a lap time on the board to try and move up through the order. Rick Thomas is finding himself down in 16th. Chris Biermester and Dave Young, they're finding 11th and 12th at the moment. We haven't even released our fastest drivers out on the track. Our diamond drivers. Chris Wall deciding enough is enough. He's pulled into the pits and now waiting to see what his fate will be. Chris Wall holds on to 9th position. He's going to be keeping an eye on David Young, Chris Biermester and Sorodio to see if there's any improvement on their part that might knock him down the order. Henry Platt, next one to come across the line. Bales on the way through. Is this going to be enough for him? 0.1 up on his time. 1:33.6 to beat. He does a 1:33.4, moves himself up into 4th place behind Daniel Mitsuma, who holds on to 3rd place. David Roth into 2nd. Great times on their part. The only one up, really up on their time right now, is Chris Biermester as he comes into the final corner. It is 1.7. Sorry, this isn't the final corner of the circuit. It's through the back end. He's 0.2 up on his time. He managed to find the fastest pace in Sector 1. Can he carry it through in Sector 2 to Sector 3 to really dial it up, get into that top 5, and see if he can also pull himself closer to Roth, Mitsuma, and Platt? But Finley Gamble has beaten out the current hardest chargers in the Platinum. David Roth, our championship leader, will be starting next to him at the moment until we go and see what our next round of competitors are going to do. 55 seconds to go. And at the moment, Rick Thomas down on his time. Chris Biermester battling to hold up on his Delta. So is Herman Whitner down 0.2. Henry Platt is only up 0.1 of a second right now. Trying to give it that last little bit of a push. Will it be enough to jump him up into the top 3? Currently holding 4th place, 0.1 up on his time. He's got to just go that little bit harder out of the corner. A big slide out as well, and that hurts his drive. 0.1 just narrowly crosses the line. Does improve ever so slightly, but not enough to put himself at the sharp end. Herman Whitner currently sitting down on his Delta. Chris Biermester 0.1 up on his Delta, but they have run to the end of the clock. They have this lap to complete and will be pulling into the pits to go and get themselves ready for the race. And we'll be releasing our Diamond Division, the fastest of the fast in the world, to slug it out, and where our championship lead is in for a major fight. Rick Thomas is able to improve a little bit with a 1:34.2. Sorodio yet to get that time on the board, unfortunately, will be at the back of his own field, including the back of the gold field. It's going to be a rough fight for him to snatch his way back up, with Chris Burmester currently 0.1 up on his time, hoping that he can really close off and get that little bit of momentum up towards the sharp end of the field. I mean, this is just where the difficulty comes in when you're racing this hard, is what happens when time runs out. And with Chris Burmester 0.18 up on his time, was not able to improve, unfortunately, due to an off track. So let's talk about our quickest in the world drivers. Christoph Peterson currently has taken a victory at Kyalami, Indianapolis, but not having the best of runs going at Valencia, where he fell down, and it came down to sheer luck that moved him up through the order. He managed to score 2 fastest laps, one at Indianapolis, one at Kyalami, to hold him on 40 points. And that is after the drop round. Rafa Souza looking to try and reclaim some time after he landed up in a bit of a problem at Valencia with a spin 2 corners from the end on the final lap. The Spirit Onyx team looking to take the fight to the sharp end is on 33 points, only 3 points away from Sean Skitter from Logistical Nightmare Racing. Miles Stone holds on to 4th place, but is not here tonight, so he will be losing out on some crucial points, considering he utilized his first drop round at Indianapolis. Ernest Limburgs will be chasing down to move up through the order. Ernest Limburgs has used his drop round at Valencia. Hasn't had the easiest of time at Indianapolis and Kyalami, but it's a brand new car that he's utilizing now and trying to get to grips with the McLaren instead of the Ferrari and the Honda that he's had some sensational runs in. Mayath Musa will be going and holding on 6th place. He's just joined up, waiting in the pit lane. Unfortunately missed a race at Valencia. So that is his drop round utilized. He's on 24 points, tying out with Ernest Limburgs, and 16 points is Rern Heineke, who has yet to utilize his drop round. 6 points at Indianapolis, 6 points at Kyalami, and got a beautiful run at Valencia. So he was able to keep that little bit of momentum. Steve Milano James, unfortunately, has utilized his drop round, missing out on Valencia, and also had no points scored at Kyalami. Indianapolis is the only point scorer he had. Bego Frobler has only been able to get in for 1 race, and Jason Farmer sits all round at the back of our championship, not able to score at Indianapolis, and missing out both Kyalami and Valencia has not helped the case. Peterson at the top with a 133.0, trying to get to that dead. He's the only driver that got ahead of Finley Gamble, as Ernest Limburgs holds on to 3rd place ahead of David Roth, that's now slipped down. Rafa Sosa coming back at him. Previous season was in a Nissan GTR. He's opted to take the McLaren this time, and that puts him on even footing with Limburgs. Sean Skitter holds on a little bit further down for 16th position. Steve Milano James, along with Rern Heineke in 25th. 26th position is Mahath Musa out in that BMW, looking to give it that last little bit of a push. So it's going to be an interesting run for our drivers. 0.072 separating the top of the pack versus Peterson and Gamble, which showing the gold pace of Gamble out on a cold circuit here at Misano makes it a little bit more interesting. Limburgs holding on to 3rd, trying to see if he can close up the distance and get into the toe of Peterson, who comes across the line of 33.0, and it's Limburgs with the 32.5, absolutely blowing Peterson and Gamble's time right out of the water. That 133.0, well, a 132, take that with the McLaren 720S. Absolutely great stuff. Rern Heineke out in 10th position at the moment, going and supporting the Griffin Sim Racing team when the helmet's off. But as soon as the helmet comes on, he's looking to fight it his way up to the top, as Stephen Milano James managing to capture 7th place at the moment with a 133.4. He's found the fastest lap time in Sector 1, hoping to make it up in Sector 2 and Sector 3, where Sean Skitter is trying to give it that final little bit of a run as well, trying to get himself up into the top 5 with 4 minutes remaining of this qualifying. There is still time on the board yet to be had, and 132 will give a lot of hope to drivers saying, right, I can get down to that time. Rafa Sosa, who was so close to capturing a win last time out at Valencia, now looking to try and put himself at the top of the order. Unfortunately, he's done a 133.9, which has put him down in 17th position and a little bit down the order from where he wants to be. 0.5 up on his time, so just under braking. He went from 0.2 to 0.5. That little bit later, that little bit neater, he has managed to work out some pace out of the car. 0.5, 0.6. Is this going to be enough to rocket him to the top? Rafa Sosa comes across the line, puts himself into 6th place. 133.2. It was 0.6 up on his time and absolutely gave it everything he could for that lap. Stephen Milano James comes across the line. A 133.4 was his best lap time. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do that yet again. And Ruben Heineke a little bit further down. Project Vapor sitting with a bit of a problem as both Sorodio and Musa at the back of the field, as Musa comes across the line with a 140.6 and Sorodio 140.2. So they are absolutely miles at the back of their classes, and 5 seconds adrift from El Perry, who holds on to 24th position over Andre Sorodio. So that is a big difference in pace. One makes you wonder, are they going to try push a little bit harder to get themselves towards the sharp end of the field, or getting used to LMU starting to take away that little bit of know-how here in ACC? Well, with Peterson currently 0.3 up on the run. He's trying to do everything he can. Rafa 0.3 up. Ruben Heineke 0.4 up on his time. Stephen Milano James 0.1 up. Limburg's waiting in shock and awe right now just to see who can get themselves across the line. Peterson pits. He's in 2nd place. He's yielded to the thought, and it's Rafa up with a 132.8 to Peterson's 132.6. The top 3 managed to capture those 132s, and Rafa is not done yet. He still feels there's more in the bag. Ruben Heineke holds on for 7th position as Stephen Milano James decides he is going to go that little bit longer into the run. 1 minute and 45 seconds remain in qualifying. Sean Skitter is a second slower when he comes across the line, and opting that he is in for a difficult run at the moment, trying to give himself that little bit of a push. Rafa pits. He feels that he's down on his delta, and that's it. Done, dusted, game over. Skitter trying to give it that extra run by 0.1. Stephen Milano James down on his delta. Not what he wanted to have. Can he quickly grip up some time to get ahead of the Griffin Sim Racing driver of Ruben Heineke that holds 7th position, while Finley Gamble has now got quite a few cars blocking him, and Tristan Ocleon that holds 10th place. So, I mean, that is a proper gap that he has got to play with there. The question is, can it work out for him in the race as we get ready to rock and roll here at the beautiful track of Misano for round 4, the ERA Sunday Championship? Skitter 0.2 up on his time, and Stephen Milano James 0.3 up on his time. 0.4, 0.5. Milano James has found just rapid pace right to the end. Can this be a proper push to get him into the top 3? Rounding the final corner, 0.6 as he boots it all across the line. The Ferrari 296 was up on his time, but unfortunately was a invalidated lap. That would have moved him up into 3rd, and unfortunately didn't work out for him. Sean Skitter next to come through with 9 seconds on the board. 0.2 up on his time and does go quicker. However, not enough to get him into the top 3. At 133.2, he'll sit with Ruben Heineke behind him. 4.2 kilometers, 16 corners around this 53-year-old circuit means that drivers are going to really have to think that little bit more. That absolute focus is needed to go and be at the top. And so far, we've seen the lap times in qualifying put themselves right up through the order. The question is, who will be able to give it that extra little bit of a run right here at ERA? Now, with that being said, let's talk about the race, because we're about to have an interesting run right here for ERA as we start to put in our wonderful success penalties. Hold on to your boots. We'll be right back with that. And we are back at the beautiful circuit of Misano, and it is going to be a great one. Success penalties being implemented, and for those that just before the break wondering what is a success penalty. Well, here at ERA, we love going and teaching how to think out of the box, how to think laterally, horizontally, vertically, looking at a different angle, and trying to move forward. For our winners of the previous race, they have to consider their pit stops now, because first place will receive 15 seconds, second place gets 10, and third place gets 5 seconds on the board. This goes to each and every single one in the class and helps bring the numbers right into one another, and also means that the grids are going to be close, but our winners from the last race will have to think what to do. Instead of adding ballast to cars like in touring car, we add that little bit of time here at ERA. That does show the difference. So let's talk about that, as Christoph Peterson will be one of the drivers facing that big run and also hoping to stay at the sharp end of the field. The question is, can he get that run? As Ernest Limburgs has got no success penalties, Peterson has got 15 seconds, Rafa Sosa has 10 seconds. Now, Limburgs is ahead of the pack with no success penalty in hand and will be utilizing that to move up through the order. Then we've got Sean Skitter lying down in 7th place, came 3rd in the last round. He gets 5 seconds onto his time. And that is currently our Diamond Division. David Roth sits with 15 seconds on his time after coming first in his class. Chris Wall, who came second, will hold 10 seconds up against his time as well. So drivers will be thinking, what do they need to do? And where are they going to make up that little bit of time? The rest of the field, however, don't have that success penalty onto them, other than Henry Platt, who currently holds on to 9th place, has got a 5-second added to his one. Finley Gamble, 15 seconds for taking the win, and has now got a monstrous gap to the rest of the field. We'll be hoping to keep a solid run throughout as the timer ticks over and our drivers are at the ready to start rolling off the line. It's a 1-hour race with one mandatory pit stop, and it's Ernest Limburgs who will start out in 1st place, Peterson in 2nd place. Rafa Sosa holds on to 3rd, with Finley Gamble leading out his class in 4th. David Roth leads out his class from 5th place, with Daniel Mutsura hot on his heels with Proper Racing MS. Sean Skitter will be running a little bit further down in 7th with Ruan Heineke, fellow South African, to change the battle. Henry Platt in 9th position, with Stephen Milano James blocking out that row. Tristan Ocleon will be battling it out with Barry Gibbons, who had a stellar run with his Mustang and now holds 3rd place in class. Herman Whitner down in 13th position with Patrick Bells. David Young. Chris Wall, a little bit further down, he's got that 10-second deficit to play with. And where is that going to move him up and down through the field? Chris Beamister, Richard Van Heerd, David Christie a little bit further down, Rick Thomas and Rick Diaga. Lewis Knight a little bit further down in 22nd place. And the defending champion has got a lot of hard work on his hands. Cedric Muir dying in 23rd. 24th, Al Perry, Andre Sorodio, and Mahaith Musa will be locking out the bottom row with the Project Vapor cars. Not ideal, but they will have to try and work incredibly hard. Limburg's backed into the sharp end of the field. Defending champion of the Diamond Division will be looking to get a solid run. David Roth, defending champion of his class, will be looking to get away from Daniel Mutsuma, who's got the pressure on him. But Limburgs and Peterson, two teammates, but looking to challenge one another, have to be well enough aware that it came down to 2 corners on the last lap, and Lady Luck smiling on their side with Murphy sitting on Rafa's side. Rafa has got a lot to fight for here. He currently sits in 3rd place and knows that the 2 teammates are going to make life a little bit difficult. Finley Gamble leads out his class, wants to try and push his way up through the field, however doesn't want to be caught in the middle of an unnecessary fight that might bring Tristan Ocleon a little bit closer to him. David Roth and Daniel Mutsuma will apply the pressure to the back of Finley Gamble, with Roth not wanting to get any loss of run on Daniel, as now they start to make their way to the line. They'll slow up to 70 kilometers now. They'll make their way into their tran lines. That means they are side by side, nose to tail. They will enter the final corner and open up, but expect to see the dive down into turn 1. Advantage to the right-hand side, but it does get rather tight once you get compressed there. And they are weak on the apex for turn 2 as Limburgs launches off the line, but it's Peterson who got the better run, who slings it around the outside, trying to see if he can make it work. Unfortunately, couldn't quite get it done. Rafa runs out wide due to cold tires. Finley Gamble trying to keep ahead of David Roth, and now starting to see what can happen as Roth on the hunt. Skitter moves up through the order. Daniel Mutsuma going and applying some pressure onto the side of the Diamond driver with Ruan Heineke right on his tail. It was a good start for most, but unfortunately there is one with a bad start, and that is Sean Skitter with a drive-through penalty for being out of position. He jumped the line trying to anticipate the lights and scores himself a drive-through penalty he'll have to serve during the race. And now, having Finley Gamble come launching on by late on the anchors, Skitter is in a race of note because his success penalty has now just turned into something a little bit more of a wild card for him. A drive-through on top of it. So now he's going to be going through the pits twice, plus added 5 seconds to his time. Not ideal running, and just trying to anticipate those lights unfortunately cost him the run. Skitter runs out wide. Daniel Mutsuma immediately looked to try and put his nose in as our leaders start to open up the gap. David Roth keeping the pressure on Rafa Sosa right now, who's fallen off 2 seconds from the leaders. Rafa just trying to conserve the tires that little bit more. Finley Gamble trying to carry on the run, as we do see Sean Skitter diving into the pits to serve that drive-through penalty. He has 3 laps to serve it. He's opted to get it out of the way now and just ensure he carries on for the run, as it's going to be a big run around the outside of El Perry. Mahaith Musa managing to get around the Nissa GTR, but now caught between the other. That's Lewis Knight, the defending champion of the Gold Division, who's got Cedric Muir. Andre Sorodio has been able to slowly climb up into 21st position, got caught behind Rick Thomas, a little bit fouled up on the exit. Rick trying to give it that last little bit of a push on the way through with Ulrich Diaga right in front of him. Going to be holding his line. 2 different classes here, but not necessarily having to play nice with one another. You are fighting overall positioning, and last thing you want to do is cost yourself some time early on in the race. We're expecting with roughly 30 minutes to go. The pit stops should be done and dusted, but we've seen a number of drivers, especially on a cold circuit like what we have here at Misano, of 19 degrees to go and box that a little bit later and hope that it will help out. Daniel Mutsma just applies so much pressure onto Finley Gamble. He is absolutely hunting as Tristan Arcleon goes off circuit. Arcleon off track and into the dust. What happened to the Mercedes driver? He had Chris Wall behind him. Did the rear just snap out underneath him and unfortunately launch him into the distance? He's able to get rolling back into 25th position, but unfortunately going and landing up in a world of hurt. Round corner over the rumble strips, throws the car in and it just snapped underneath him. Thankfully narrowly missing the grid and avoiding any damage to the car, but not quite what he wanted to have, and set him right back into 25th position with Sean Skitter 16 seconds behind. Skitter, after serving that drive-through penalty, now just looking to capture some points by circulating. If he can run that a little bit longer, he can slowly but surely bring himself back up into contention. However, it's going to be a monstrous fight as he has to try and navigate around our golds and platinums who are fighting for position and won't be so forgiving. You got it wrong, well, they don't have to pay the price, and it's going to be all about eyeing out those opportunities as Rick Thomas trying to close up on Ulrich Diaga, just not having that run. Can't get the pass done and dusted as yet. Mahith Musa onto the back of Lewis Knight, trying to look for the inside line. The Project Vapor driver just not getting the momentum he needs to really make it work for him. Just knocked on up into 24th. L. Perry going and falling down to 25th position. So L. Perry not having the easy time out there. He slipped all the way back with Sean Skitter now managing to close up some distance to him. So Skitter slowly but surely trying to bring himself back into the fight, but is going to really need to dial it up and put in those quality lap times on the tires. They will be starting on the old set of tires. They've only been given 2 sets of tires for the weekend, and now this is where the drivers need to think critically of what they're going to do. Either start on the new or start on the old. Majority of the time, they start on the old, push as hard as they can, switch over to the new tires, and then carry on the race till the very end, giving it that hard run to really scrub the tires in and ensure they've got maximum amount of grip on a circuit that's got a lot more grip underneath it as well. Peterson and Limburgs running nose to tail, with Peterson not going and looking for any opportunity to get on by. The two of them opting to rather pull each other along and break away from Rafa Sosa, who is really sitting in no man's land at the moment. David Roth is trying to close up that distance. He holds first in the Platinum class and just not closing up the gap as quick as he would like, with Finley Gamble holding on 5th place, who's under some serious pressure from second in the Platinum field. Daniel Mutsuma, who is absolutely looking to try and close up on Finley Gamble, the 2ID 296 driver, making it up under braking to David Roth, who wasn't as comfortable in towards the second last corner. And now, this final corner, is this going to be a run for Gamble to really make it through? He does get a little bit squirrely on the exit. That felled up that drive, but so did Daniel Mutsva. So the three of them still running in tow. With Finley Gamble, the cork in the bottle between Daniel Mutsva and David Roth, trying to see where exactly can he either get on by or how can he hold back the rest of the field. A little bit further down, Ruben Heineke trying to keep a little bit of pressure on the back of them with Stephen Milano James. Henry Platt 1.3 seconds down on him. Second place of our gold division, Barry Gibbons, just waiting for his opportunity, while Herman Wittner looks in the mirror and sees Chris Wall keeping him company, the Aston Martin driver, trying to really close up the gap to the Extreme Sim Racing team. And it's going to be a mad dash as Daniel Mutsuma gets a pass on Finley Gamble down the inside. Ren Heineke tried to also put his nose in forward. Unfortunately, couldn't get it done. Now Daniel Mutsuma free to go on the attack. 0.7 of a second to David Roth ahead of him. Ren Heineke has got pressure from Stephen Milano James, so he'll be looking to try and get past Finley Gamble as quick as possible. or for Finley Gamble to give him that little bit of a slip to try and pull away from Stephen Malone James. Either way, you got to risk it for the biscuit right now to get it done and dusted. And you got to remember that there's a number of drivers that have still got their success penalties they need to serve as well to try and shake off those success penalties during the pit stops to carry on up through the fight. For those needing to get it done, it's whether you do it early or late, as we got 2 minutes before the first 10 minutes of the race is completed. And we've only seen a drive-through penalty done by Sean Skitter and Tristan Ocleon, who lost the rear end of the car, thankfully not collecting anyone on the way through. So well done to both Tristan and the rest of the drivers having quick reflexes to avoid any contacts that may have happened at that time. But was able to go right. Let's keep it moving. But both drivers now need to pull their way back up through the field. Thomas and Serodio trying to find it out between one another. Ulrich Diaga just ahead of them, and Cedric Muir out in the Verstappen.com Ferrari trying to close up at a rate of not Cedric, hoping to get back in towards the championship fight, and will be really giving it everything he can, hoping he doesn't have the luck of Max Verstappen and the rest of his Verstappen racing team. With that poor Mercedes giving up the ghost right at the last, while Cedric is going to try and see if he can bring the Ferrari to the sharp end of the field. Myers Musser applying more pressure on Lewis Knight, not able to get on by. Tristan Ocleon holds on 24th. 26th is Sean Skitter. Serodio managing to figure out a little bit of drive. He's got Rick Thomas ahead of him. So the Project Vapor team moving slightly up through the order at the back end of the field, but just not enough to really get themselves in for that proper fight towards the top. David Young losing our position to Chris Wall, who goes up on the inside of Herman Whitmer, trying to see if he can get on by. Couldn't quite get in the second last corner. Late on the brakes, throws it down wide out of the final corner. A little bit of contact between himself and Herman Whitmer. Herman's able to get back on track, but that has allowed David Young to get the drive around the outside as Chris goes late on the anchors to try and protect himself from David Young after that little bit of minor contact between Whitner and himself, and that went and brought a whole concertina up as problems coming in for Whitner. Whitner off the circuit, contact on the rear, and he's off the circuit. Chris Wall going up through the order, David Young as well, but Chris Wall landing up with that little bit of contact. And let's see if we can go in towards the driver cam and see. This is on the bumper. Did he just get caught out as he looked around the outside? We go to Helicam. Yeah, it looked like it was going to be Herman Whitner trying to close the door. Misjudged where the nose of Chris Wall was and clipped him to turn him around. Very, very close between them. Unfortunately, landing up in a bit of a problem. Andre Serodio going and landing up with contact as well against Cedric Muir. So those two coming to blows. So Andre Serodio trying to guard the line as we... that was big contact from behind. Looked like Whitner went into Tristan Ocleon a little bit further back. But we keep in mind, we'll go back to that little bit of contact. This is unfortunately what happened to Serodio and Cedric Muir. Cedric tried to go underneath Serodio, went into the side of him, and that turned him around. Serodio was able to get going. Cedric Muir was able to get going, but only after. But man, oh man, we did see that shot in the back. We're going to quickly see if we can get a replay of that contact between Herman Whitner and... see, this is the 6 coming through. Not quite what we're looking at, as Herman was actually guarding the line. So was it the 6? No, it wasn't. So Tristan Ocleon is the 33, so it will be this one over here. And we'll try and quickly dive back to what happened to Tristan Ocleon. That contact. So we're just trying to ascertain what actually happened there, because it was a 3 wide situation, heading 4 wide. Tristan managed to get past. He had contact and just went ricocheting off the cars. So a bit of an odd situation that played out. That landed up with Tristan Ocleon getting bounced off. Was it Sorodia's? No, that was my Mussa's car. Herman Whitmer's car as well. So Myers, Mussa and Whitmer are able to keep on going. But Sean Skitter has managed to climb position. Tristan Ockleon into the pits with some major repair work as Myers Mussa down the inside of Rick Thomas gets it done and dusted. Rick down into 19th position will be looking to try and pull his way back up through the order. So we have seen a little bit of a scuffle, and it does look like the nose and side of the Myers Mussa Project Vapor car, left side particularly, going and sporting a little bit of damage to the car that will be getting some repair work to it. Herman Whitmer as well, just trying to carry on the momentum, has Sean Skitter trying to look around the outside. His car a little worse for wear, and Sean Skitter is going to definitely have a lot more top end in him to try and see if he can play into the fight as well. So bit of a run at the back, but let's talk about our top three at the moment for our gold division. Rich Van Heerd versus Patrick Bells, and Patrick at the moment currently holding on to 13th with Richard in 14th, but both of them fighting for third in class. Richard hoping that he can really close up on the back of the BMW. However, it's going to be a bit of a rough time to do so, as Patrick has got the pull from David Young, who's got Chris Wall ahead of him. And Richard just on the back of that trade, trying to bring himself back into check, trying to see if he can close up that little bit more. Myers Mussa having a go at Ulrich Diaga. Looks down the inside, and can he get that pass done? Sends it through, and it is a easy pass for Myers Mussa. Ulrich Diaga not fighting back too hard there, but that's just allowed Rick Thomas to draw a little bit closer. So is Lewis Knight going and bringing himself back as Andre Sorodio down the inside, just gingerly fighting with Cedric Rear. Both of them a little cautious. Oh, never mind. As Cedric gets tapped in the rear, he's able to bring it back in front of Sorodio, who came off the throttle. The two of them going and having a little bit of a moment with one another. Yet again, the two, the Ferrari and the Honda, once again crossing swords, trying to go and one up, and that's landing up, throwing them down the order. Peterson and Limburg's 0.2 of a second. These two are beautifully run away from Rafa, 6 seconds back, with David Roth 2 seconds off him, leading out his class. Daniel Mutsuma 0.4 of a second on the back of him. So Daniel, now that little bit closer, got freed up from Finley Gamble, has been allowed to take the fight. Ruud Heineken and Stephen Milano James, they're fighting out for 4th in class as well, and they trying to keep ahead. Henry Platt trying to close up at a rate of knots onto the back of them, and Heineken losing a little bit of drive, and that's going to allow Stephen Milano James to close up, seeing if he can get round. Breaks that a little bit harder, lost the drive, and Henry Platt is able to close up onto the back of him. Heineken cuts the corner a little bit deep there, really flirting with track limits at the moment, hoping that doesn't cause a problem for him, and will be thinking, right, what do I need to do to avoid, because you only get 3 warnings before you get handed a drive-through penalty, and a couple of the drivers have been flirting with those track limits, really trying those anti-cut curves, bouncing over them to really move forward. The question is that going to help them in the later parts of this race, or are they going and causing a little bit of loss of time? Darren Christie for the Sky Tempest Racing, holding on to Chris Biermester just ahead, 0.3 of a second to both of them. 2 different classes. David Christie trying to get back into contention, running in 5th place in the gold class at the moment, chasing down Chris Biermester, who is currently sitting 6th in his class. So Chris hoping that he can get the run a little bit further up after seeing him getting a little bit of argy-bargy and used as a ping-pong wall, unfortunately. Now trying to fight his way through the field. Henry Platt looks down the inside of Stephen Milano James, cuts the curb to get it done, swips across the nose, just managing to defend Stephen Milano James down into 9th position, and that has brought Barry Gibbons as Tristan Ockleon. Mine's out of the way. He is laps out on the field after the contacts, and now just trying to pull his way back into this race. 2 laps down and just circulating to score points. Sorodio once again trying to look down the inside of Cedric Muir. Really does go for a wild send. Cedric, however, cuts him off, saying not this time. You're going to have to try and figure out the next move from there. But it was a very good move to look fine. Unfortunately, the payoff didn't quite work out in his favor and lost that little bit of time. Now having to just try and recoup some of that battle. Platt, Lana James, Gibbons all fighting in a row with Ruin Heineke leading out the train. Heineke in a little bit no man's land as Finley Gamble has walked away 1.5 seconds, which means he's providing the tow to the rest of the field, and at the moment lies fourth in his class with a hard charging Stephen Milana James right behind him. Henry Platt trying to see if he could go for the outright win here. Lost around at Indianapolis by not able to be at the racetrack for that. Will now be trying to score big here tonight, currently third in class, and hoping for these two to go and bring themselves a little bit closer to the rest of the field. Daniel Mutzma and David Roth keeping a solid drive at the moment to really make it work out for them. Christoph Peterson has hit the best lap time of his class, 133.2 on his third lap, and had a stellar run ahead of Ernest Lindbergh's 133.272, while Peterson at 133.232. So there is plus 1 point in the bag for him, and well, holding on second place. He's going to be quite happy with that. David Roth did a 133.712, going very, very close to the leader's pace. And at the moment, does look like he is the fastest in his class, so he'll be maximizing a single point over the rest. Finley Gamble, 133.8 compared to the rest of his class. Unfortunately, will not be holding on to that as Barry Gibbons, 133.6. So Barry holds on to the fastest lap of the race in the gold class to try and help him out in the championship points. Rich Van Eed going a little bit close to Patrick, seeing where he can get on by. Patrick close to David Young by 0.9 of a second. Richard looks for the inside, trying to make it work. Couldn't quite get it done. Had to back off the throttle, costing him a bit of time. And now trying to rethink what's the game plan. Where can I move forward? And what is going to be the launch to make it work? As our drivers giving that little bit of a push, Daniel Mutzma and David Roth giving the hard run through the order, trying to put as much pressure on one another. With Daniel Mutzma, every time he gets close enough, he does take a look to see if he can get past, does try and see if he can get that little bit more of a run, as we do see a car coming into the pits. Just trying to find out who exactly that is. That's David Young. So an early pit stop for him, not even halfway through the race. David Young thinking he can get the run through the field with an undercut. And, well, this is going to be an interesting take to the drive, because this circuit has got an incredibly long pit lane that you come out on the racing line out of turn 2, and we'll be seeing whether it's going to work out for him. Ith Musa keeps an eye on this battle as Chris Biermister and David Christie fight out between one another at the moment. David Christie having to get elbows out. Rick Thomas pulls into the pit, so he's getting himself done and dusted. Solid run from our competitors right now. Everyone looking for their advantage, but keep an eye on Rick Thomas and David Young trying the undercut on the Platinum division, and if that works out, it might be moving them in to winning contention, and that is exactly what both drivers need in the championship to try and get ahead of David Roth and Daniel Mutzma, who look like they're going to go a lot longer into this race. They're going to push a lot longer and see if that's going to try help them out. They see Rafa Souza up ahead. Keep an eye on the leaders. Rafa holds on to third place, 8 seconds back from Peterson and Limburgs, who have been towing each other along. And I do think Rafa going and seeing the teammate advantage out on circuit, helping him out. Ruin Heineke and Gamble fighting out between one another. Heineke sitting 4th in class, hoping that he can get a stellar drive and close up the distance between himself and Rafa Sosa, with Finley Gamble leading out the gold class and running 6th just out of that top 5. 1 second adrift from Daniel Mutsuma and the likes of David Roth. So top 5 overall is definitely on the cards here, but he's got to play it right. David Young holds on to the first of those that have done all their pit stops. Rick Thomas and Tristan Ocleon will be running in tow. Tristan, unfortunately, landing up with that early incident of spinning off into the dirt and then getting ricocheted all over the way, has unfortunately gone and thrown down the order 2 laps down. So he is circulating at this stage of the game to try and see if it's going to work out in his favor, and also where he can pick up just a couple of points. If you see the green, you've got to see the checkered, and Tristan at the moment is living by that at the moment. We have got a little bit of information coming in. This is from Al Perry, the Nissan GTR driver that was out on track a little bit earlier. Al Perry saying unfortunately wasn't feeling so lacquer and had to retire the car. So Al Perry unfortunately feeling under the weather, getting a little bit, feeling a bit grim while driving, and unfortunately had to retire the car. Not what he wanted to have. Christoph Peterson, first of our top 5 to dive into the pits, and that allows Limburgs a little bit of breathing room. Rafa Sosa now seeing that the teammate advantage has gone away, he's got to push that a little bit harder. David Roth up into 3rd. Finley Gamble ahead of Ruan Heineke holds on to that top 5, and right behind him, fellow South African Henry Platt giving chase. Stephen Milano James holds on 7th, with Barry Gibbons holding on for 8th. Rich Van Heed and Patrick Bells rounding out our top 10. David Christie and Mahath Musa keep each other company as Chris Wall, Peterson, and Daniel Mutsuma pull into the pits. Now, Mutsuma was fighting out Roth for the first in class. Now into the pits, trying for the undercut. The question is he going to come out ahead of David Young, who will be setting the pace of those that have done their pit stops? And Daniel Mutsuma just exiting. Daniel Mutsuma had a better pit stop time than Peterson, who now has just left. Peterson did have to serve a stop-go success penalty that was quite far up the road, and you can see that he is now having to make up a bit of time. Herman Wepner comes across, who will be the last of those that need to pit. Daniel Mutsuma exits pit lane with Christoph Peterson. Chris Wall still waiting to go as David Young goes and scoots himself up. 2nd in class that have done the pit stops. Chris Wall backs down into 4th with Rick Thomas on the way, giving chase. Stephen Milano James now diving into the pit. 34 minutes in. Not halfway through the race like what we expected the drivers to do. However, the drivers thinking a little bit outside the bag here, hoping that pitting that fraction earlier is going to help them out to move through the order. So to Al Perry, just want to let you know that we wish you all the well and feel better soon. Never a nice thing to hear that unfortunately one driver feeling a little bit grim and forcing a retirement out there. So to Al Perry from the entire ERA family, get well soon, bud. Look forward to having you on the track yet again. Sean Skitter, after a drive-through penalty, managing to scoot himself up to 17th position. Now trying to put pressure on Cedric Murray ahead of him. Sean Skitter still got to serve a 5-second during his pit stop, and at the moment, everyone behind them, bar one driver, Herman Wepner, has done their pit stop. Cedric Murray defends the line as he goes into the left-hander with Sean Skitter trying to hunt for every opportunity to get on by and really doing everything he can. Lewis Knight managing to catch up to Ulrich Diaga and seeing where he can get that little bit of push as we jump on board with Nissan GTR. Unfortunately, the Nissan GTR is no longer manufactured. The last Godzilla went offline this year, and with that being said, Al Perry and Lewis Knight are the 2 drivers in Server 1 going and campaigning the cars and giving them a proper send-off of note, especially here on ACC, where they were quite a dominating run to the end. Late into the corner, Ulrich Diaga still managing to keep a solid run as Chris Biermeister dives into the pits. He drops down the order, hoping to get the run and see if it's going to help him out as Ulrich Diaga keeps an eye on the review mirror. Seeing Lewis Knight trying to close that gap little by little. Ruin Heineke trying to get past Finley Gamble, who currently holds on to first of the gold. Who got a little bit of an upset drive on the exit there, forcing Heineke to get a little bit squirrely. Herman Wepner finally into the pits, and I think going to be doing a fair amount of repair work to his car as well. And that will drop him down the order as Christoph Peterson all over the back of Daniel Mutsuma. Beautiful slide coming out of the corner as well. Definitely want to go on board for that one, because that was in through the left-hander, and the Honda having the VTEC kick in a little bit earlier than planned drifted him around. So it got caught out with Daniel Mutsuma going and keeping a hard defense. Tried to carry a lot of momentum through, went over the anti-cut curves, hard on the brakes, sends it in, and there's the cross-up. Oh, just as he gets it all back together. That lost a bit of time, but Brownie points on the slide, and on the last lap was able to do a 133.7 despite that slide. He was still able to keep a solid run. Sean Skitter, last of those that need to pit now as he keeps the pressure on Cedric Muir, and looking to fight out, but not in his own class. His next target is Mahiath Musa, way up the field, who's got David Christie for company as Ulrich Diaga pulls into the pits to try and get his pit stop done and dusted. And we have got a problem. That is Finley Gamble. That is our top runner of the gold division. Indianapolis didn't work out for him, and unfortunately it looks like it may be here at Misano that it all goes wrong yet again. Ruin Heineke right on the back of him, trying to close up. Did Finley Gamble get all crossed up, or was there contact? Comes out of the corner a little bit slow over the anti-cut curbs and was upset, and that little bit of contact from Ruin Heineke was just enough to spike him round. Finley over the anti-cut curbs were bouncing up and down, and just that little contact in the rear was enough to upset the car and spike him into the wall. Major damage to be repaired for Finley Gamble on top of the 15 seconds he has to serve, which means that Barry Gibbons at the moment leads out the gold division with Richard Van Heed holding on to 7th position. Patrick Bills holds on for 3rd in the gold division. What an upset. Our championship leader in the gold division now seeing that life's just gotten a little bit tricky for him. Cedric Muir into the pits. Finley Gamble holds on to 9th. He is not thinking about pit lane. Oh, never mind. He is going into pit lane, calling me a liar on that one. So is Mahiath Musta. Darren Christie comes in. Lewis Knight as well. Sorodio comes bailing on through. He's not going to go into the pit. Sean Skitter dives into pit lane as well. So Finley Gamble having his entire race turned on its head by getting a little bit upset over the anti-cut curves. A little bit of contact from Ruin Heineke on the back just had enough to spin the car around, forcing him down the order. Heineke now needs to keep an eye on the rest of the field as he currently runs 3rd in class. Barry Gibbons leads out his class with Richard closing up the gap. Henry Platt 2nd in the Platinum division. They'll be keeping a very close eye on one particular driver that leads out the entire field that have done their pit stops. He's got Christoph Peterson on the back of him, but Daniel Mutsuma can be the cork in the bottle here. He holds on to the top 10 and is holding his own against Christoph Peterson. And on the last lap, he did his best lap time of 133.7. Christoph did a 133.8. Well, Rafa Sosa comes across the line. David Roth, Henry Platt, Ernest Lindbergs, and Ruin Heineke and Barry Gibbons head into the pits. They're getting their pit stops done, and this might be the opportunity for Peterson to maximize his points, or it might be everything that's needed for Heineke, Lindbergs, and Rafa to go that little bit longer to really help them out here. Rafa needing to serve 10 seconds, and he is trying to open that up. David Roth holds on to 1st in the Platinum class. 27 minutes left of this race, with Andre Sorodio, the only one that is out of those that needed to pit, is lying in 9th at the moment. just trying to hold his own. But the question comes down to, is Limburg's going to get out in time? Waiting. It's a long time before he can get off that pit limiter. He does come off it. And where is the rest of the field? Barry comes through, Patrick, Ruin, Heineke. But Limburg's looks like he may have got the run. Daniel Mutsuma holds on ahead of Christoph Peterson. And Christoph lost that opportunity to get past Limburg's. Limburg's takes over the run and will be leading out those that have done their pit stops, with Daniel Mutsuma sitting second of those, and he holds back Christoph Peterson yet again. Rafa Sosa sees that this might be his opportunity to make it work. He pulls into the pits, handing over the lead to David Roth, who now takes over the overall lead. Henry Platt, who holds second in the Platinum class, dives into pit lane. Not quite what Roth wanted to see. Sorodio, is he going to react to Platt? Is he going to dive into the pits? Not quite close enough to pit lane as yet to make it work out for him, but might go that extra lap. No, he goes into the pits. So David Roth is the only driver left out on circuit to do his pit stop. And whether it's going to work out or not, ahead of Daniel Mutsuma, who's been putting the fastest times. Yet again, did his personal best 133.7, with Christoph Peterson doing a 133.6. Peterson is quicker, but still can't find out a way around Daniel Mutsuma. Limburgs retakes the lead. Where is Rafa as he gets rolling? Now needing to try and see if it's going to work out as he exits pit lane. He's still on the pit limiter. It's going to be a close one for Sosa to get the run. He does see the McLaren come through. Peterson up into second in class, with Stephen Milano James able to get into third. Rafa just coming off the pit limiter now, down into fourth. He waited just a little too long, and the undercut caught him out. Barry holds on to the lead for his class, with Richard Van Eed holding on Cedric. And then we got Patrick Bells holding on to third. At the moment, David Young trying to keep up the fight onto the back of Patrick. He's doing everything he can. This race has just gone absolutely mental. Roth into the pits. Limburgs will take over the lead of the race, with Daniel Mutsuma theoretically should be holding on to second, possibly taking over the win for the Platinum. He will have to keep his foot down. He will have to give that little bit more to see if it works out. Henry Platt holds on to third in class. Peterson holds on to second, with Stephen Milano James up into third. Rafa Sosa trying to close up a distance. After going into the pits a little bit later, he took the gamble, he rolled the dice, got the snake eyes, and unfortunately didn't work out for him. Limburgs comes through to take over the lead of the race. Here comes Daniel Mutsuma. Will Roth come out of the pits in time? He will see the McLaren on the limit, and there he goes. Mutsuma takes over the lead of the Platinum, with Peterson up into third. Milano James 2 seconds back. Now this is an interesting play here, because Stephen Milano James set a 133.5 on that last run, going and really dialing up. His best lap time was a 133.512, which was done on this previous lap, and he is closing the distance to Peterson, who I think is starting to feel the pressure. His last lap time was a 134 dead. So Peterson a little bit slow on that last run. Remember, his best lap time's a 133.2 in a tow, and now he is trying to see where he could go. Rafa puts pressure on Henry Platt, will be looking to try and get on by. Henry Platt holding second in class. Rafa runs in the 133.4s, while Henry Platt was 133.8 is his best lap time. And the question is Henry Platt going to allow Rafa to come on by, get into the toe, pull himself a bit closer to Daniel Mutsuma, or is he going to try and hold him back, race for overall position here? There is two ways to handle a race, and at the moment, Henry Platt is deciding to fight it through. Never mind, Rafa gets around him, but David Young, 0.1, he looks down the inside. Patrick Bells, who holds on to third place with right in front of him, Richard Van Heed, and I don't think Patrick will be letting David Young by anytime soon, while Richard Van Heed is within arm's reach of him. Richard holding second place in the gold division with 22 minutes to go, sees David Roth holding on to 9th position, 7 seconds behind Ruben Heineke. So there is a lot of room between Roth and Heineke right now, but Richard Van Heed wants to go fighting with Roth. That might throw him a little bit further down and play into the hands of David Young, who was one of the earlier pit stops. We got to go back to it. David Young was part of 2 drivers that went in for an early pit stop to make it work out in their favor, with David Young going all the way down to 24th position, just in front of Tristan Ocleon, who had a problem and needed to be towed back. Now he is up to 12th, and he's got Chris Wall trying to hunt him down for that 4th position. So this is going to be a bit of a run for David Young, and the pressure is on to try and make it work. Christoph Peterson 2.7 seconds ahead of Stephen Milano James, now trying everything he can to get the pass done on Daniel Mutsuma. Daniel 1:33.7 on that last run. And we do see Stephen Milano James, a quick healer into the sound there. It was a little bit of a dip into the dirt, put him 3 seconds back. So now this is going to be a wild one for him, as Stephen Milano James now 3 seconds drift and hitting those anti-curb curbs, which brings in Rafa Sosa a little bit closer. So Rafa not completely out of the fight for the podium here. He does have Stephen Milano James just ahead of him, full company, and may play a bit of a twist. Henry Platt, second in the platinum class, behind Daniel Mutsuma, who holds first. David Roth holds on to 3rd place, but he has got David Young trying to close up that gap, and Chris Wall going and also throwing his hat into the ring. Barry Gibbons holds on to first in the gold division. Rich Van Heed and Patrick Bells running in tow. There is still a fight out there. Finley Gamble trying to pick up the pace, and Tristan Ocleon in the pits with a stop-go 30-second penalty for speeding in pit lane. Not what he wanted to have, and a race to forget. That is definitely going to be on the cards there. Just forget about it. Don't talk about it. But hopefully he can get that car back out on track and continue on the race. We'd love to see, once you see the green, you've got to see the checkered. We do know of El Perry, unfortunately not able to see the checkered due to feeling unwell. But for Tristan Ocleon, he kept going regardless of coming off the track, landing up in the wall. He still has an option to go that little bit further into the race. And I really, really hope that he hangs in for it. But currently, we are seeing little silos breaking out across the circuit. Drive-through penalty coming in for Stephen Milano James, as we did see Chris Wall got the pass on David Young. Stephen Milano James, drive-through penalty, and that is a podium gone and taken away. And in utter defeat, has gone and retired the car as well. Not what he wanted to have, and throws it away with the drive-through penalty by scoring no points in the race. No, not what we wanted to see from Stephen Milano James, who was right up at the top there. Yes, drive-through penalty took him out of the top 3 and has now moved Rafa Sosa up, but there was no reason to go and throw out a top 5 in the Diamond division that can help him out in points. No need to go and throw away crucial points in the championship. It's round 4, and we've only got 7 rounds in the championship, so there's not a lot of time to play with. And by going and losing out like that, oh man, that's a gut-wrenching blow to see. Heineke and Gibbons going and fighting out, no holds bar at the moment. Barry going and leading out his class, showing some masterclass pace at the front end of the field, going and keep ahead of Richard Van Heed and Patrick Bells behind him. Chris Wall, who got past David Young, now sets himself up in 4th place with Roth up the road from him. David Young trying to apply a little bit of pressure to see where he can move. So Rodeo going after Chris Biermester, the 2 South Africans. Chris Biermester of the Extreme Sim Racing team, now trying to play a little bit of chase to the Project Vapor team ahead of Mahath Musa in the BMW, and with the Honda of Andre Rodeo, who looks to go underneath him. Dives on the inside, gets the pass done And Chris Beermister loses out that little bit of drive, a little bit of a wiggle, a woggle, and gets himself back up and going, but lost out that run to Rodeo. Musa looks on the run to Ulrich Diaga, dives down the inside as Diaga runs out wide. Diaga, knowing that he's not fighting the diamond, didn't put too much of a fight there. Instead, will keep in tow, pulling himself along. He knows that he can try and close up the gap to Darren Christie, who holds fourth in the class, and he is sitting 7 seconds up the road, so a little bit of an advantage run may be able to pull him up through the order. Sean Skitter, despite the drive-through penalty going and hampering his time, holds on to 18th position, as we do have looks like Tristan has unfortunately called it quits as well, and opting that he is out of this race. So after circulating, getting a bit of damage to the car, and having to serve a stop-go 30, he has decided to retire the car with the team. Unfortunate to see after he tried to keep it out there just that little bit longer after contact earlier in the race. Sean Skitter, Beermister, Sorodio, and Diaga now running really close in tow to one another, trying to push that little bit more. Barry trying to see apologies, trying to get the run on Henry Platt with Ruin Heineke, trying to close up the gap behind him. Ruin Heineke currently sitting fourth in class, Barry first in class, Henry Platt second in class. So they're not in a fight in class. However, it's on-track positioning, and all three of these drivers are not afraid to give it that big push down to the wire, with Lindbergh's 19 seconds up the road. Peterson managing to get the pass on Daniel Mutsuma, who ran out very, very wide. So Daniel Mutsuma absolutely went yeeting off the circuit. Let's quickly try and find out what happened there, because this is over the anti-cut curb, went out wide. McLaren a little bit unsettled, and that would pick up a warning for Daniel. Not ideally what he wants. He swings it out wide, throws the car in. McLaren, just gets a tank slapper. He's able to save it only just, and then opens up the corner and allows an easy pass for Peterson to come on through. Tries to come back for the fight. However, Peterson managing just to hold his ground. For Daniel, he's holding out first in class and still in a race. Now, Daniel Mutsuma is not afraid to race anyone, everyone, and anything. And, well, he's got his opportunity with Peterson as he looks down the inside. Peterson trying to swing around the outside. It's going to be Daniel trying for the apex. Couldn't quite get the run, and Peterson looked over to his right-hand mirror and right-hand window. Suddenly you see a McLaren coming at him at a rate of knots that's not afraid of holding back for Peterson. This is a bit of a oh boy situation for him, because the more he gets fouled up by Daniel Mutsuma, the more it plays into the second of the McLarens. Well, the third of the McLarens, if you count Ernst Lindbergh's, Rafa Sosa, who's managed to close up a 5-second deficit to a 1.5-second deficit, and now seeing where he can go. Daniel Mutsuma can be the cork in the bottle here. He can either force Peterson into a mistake, or he can land up fouling Rafa. That will take Peterson to ensure that second place. He holds the fastest lap time in the race. Never mind, scratch that. Ernest Lindbergh's has just captured that away with a 1:33.165 on the last lap. So Lindbergh's is looking at a win and fastest lap in class to really hammer home that he is at the sharp end of the field and will not be one to be forgotten. So Daniel Mutsuma trying once again, see if he can come on through. Henry Platt trying to keep an eye on the mirror of Barry Gibbons right behind him, and Ruin Heineke in 7th position, 4th in class, trying to keep up that gap as well. We're down to 23 drivers. We started with 26. Unfortunately, a couple of retirements due to one being defeated by a drive-through penalty and just opting to jump out of the car. Stephen Milano James saying enough is enough after receiving a drive-through penalty for track limits exceeded. Then we had Tristan Ocleon going and calling it quits after going and battling his way around the circuit. Unfortunately, laps down on the rest. Stop-go 30 second didn't help, and that took him out of the running as well. We also saw the loss of yet another driver in the run, was El Perry, who wasn't feeling well, had a stellar fight, but unfortunately just started feeling more and more grim behind the car. Instead of going and landing up with any problems, especially leading into work, he would rather just call it quits, rather get some meds in the system and watch the racing from the pit lane. So we wish him well and hope that he feels better very, very soon. To the Nissan GTR driver Chris Wall, trying to keep on the pressure for Patrick. 12 minutes left in this race. And now at the moment, Patrick, running third in class, does not want to lose out any bit of time. Chris Wall in tow, looks for the inside line, and looks like he's got the run for it. Can he make it work out? Once again, takes a look down the inside. Patrick trying to close the door, had to open it up as Chris Wall went and leant on him a little bit there, and Patrick, deciding to err on the side of caution, came off the throttle, allowed Chris Wall to come through. David Young will close up on the back of him. Chris Wall knows that he's got the pressure of David Young on the back of him, but if Patrick got thrown off the track, that would have brought this very McLaren, the Sky Tempest Racing, up into the top of the charts of David Christie. Unfortunately, one person that's going to be visiting the pit lane yet again didn't enjoy it the first time, well, enjoy it the second time. Rick Thomas with a drive-through penalty for track limits exceeded, and unfortunately will be needing to serve that in the next 3 laps. So Rick Thomas not having the race that he wanted and will be seeing the pit lane yet again, just in case he wasn't as comfortable with it. Daniel Mutsuma loses out the drive, and now having a bit of a run with Rafa Souza up on the inside. I don't think Rafa's going to give him much room here to get it done, and Daniel trying to fight back around the outside, seeing if he could go for the undercut, but Rafa saying nope, not going to happen, slams that door shut as hard as he can, and that's just brought himself a little bit closer to Christoph Peterson. Christoph was stuck laps upon laps behind Daniel Mutsuma, who leads out his class, and well, Rafa Souza took all of 4 corners to get it done, and now has an option to go after Christoph Peterson, but I don't count Daniel Mutsuma out of the run just as yet. He is 0.4 behind and looking for his options to move forward. Henry Platt trying to make a way through, and I think he actually got felled up behind Finley Gamble, who is sitting in 23rd position, and that gave Souza that run out of the corner. Henry Platt, Barry Gibbon, and along with Ruud Heineke right on the back of him, keeping the pressure on, and just on the back is third place of the Platinum class, David Roth, who ran that a little bit longer into the race, hoping for it to work out in his favor. Unfortunately, it did not, and it threw him into third. Now having to try and close up. He's got Henry Platt just inside. He can see that BMW, but he has to get past Heineke and Gibbons before he can get that pass done and dusted. Rick Thomas visiting the pit lane for the second time this race as he's on the pit limiter, and will be just eyeing out the crowd, acknowledging all the models of ACC, going, yep, that one looks good, that one's staring into the pits, that one might be scratching his bound. Not quite sure what that one's doing, but unfortunately not quite the race he wanted. That's going to drop him down below his teammate Herman Wepner, who had some early damage early on, but is now just keep circulating for those points, and now is able to move up a class position as well as an on-track position. David Roth catching up to Ruud Heineke, and now 0.8 of a second separate from them. Barry holding on 0.5 to Henry Platt. All this is done, Platt's going to be loving the time as Matsushima onto the back. Matsushima going and holding on to 4th place. I wonder how I'll get that right for Matsushima. I think that would be Daniel. Have to ask him of the correct pronunciation. It's been years I think I've been getting that name wrong. So Matsushima holds on for 4th place. Try to get that one right. Rafa Souza onto the back of Peterson, 0.8 of a second. Limburg's 23.3 seconds up the road. So what we see right now is Limburg's with an out-and-out easy drive to the end, but he's not slacking off. That 133.6 shows that he is keeping on the power. He knows he can't lose any bit of time here as David Roth clears past Heineke. Heineke still holds a position in class, but did not argue too much with David Roth, who is on the hunt to go after Henry Platt. Now, Barry is the only car separating second place in the Platinum division. The leader of the gold looking to try and keep the pressure on. He is not going on the attack, instead utilizing the toe to pull himself along. The question is he going to fight David Roth to try and hold position, or will it be an easy pass and get the pressure back on to Henry and David Roth? Now, I know Henry Platt will be thinking about this and trying to figure out what do I need to do to get my lap times to work out as they come across the line. Henry Platt did a 134.5, with Roth doing a 134.4 on that last lap. And a drive-through penalty for Peterson. Peterson, pushing harder and harder, has taken second place and just handed it to Rafa Sosa. Rafa will hold on for second place. Now, Peterson, all that he can do is go for a defense run here. He can try keep the pace up to see if he can maintain the run ahead of Ruben Heineke. But Rafa, who was losing critical time to Limburgs with 6 minutes left in this race, I don't think is enough time for Rafa to go hunting for the position. However, he can't let the red mist come down and foul him up, as he does go down the inside of Peterson, who gives way. Peterson opened up that corner, allowed the pass to happen, and it's immediately Rafa goes and fouls up his drive, giving it back to Peterson. Peterson needs to dive into the pit, so he will get it done. But it was kind of after you, sir. No, after you. And another drive-through penalty for Sean Skitter. He did not enjoy the pit lane the first time where he had to do the drive-through. The second time where he needs to pit. So he's doing a third time in the last 5 minutes and 15 seconds. It is a night to forget for Sean Skitter, and it's only gotten worse. Henry Platt now moves up to fourth with Roth right on his tail. Daniel keeps the pressure on Sosa. Heineke up into third. The Griffin Sim Racing team, Ruben Heineke up into third. Is this going to be his moment to be on the podium? Well, at the moment, with Christoph down the order as Young comes on by. Christoph Peterson just exiting pit lane in 12th with 13th position. Mayath Musa 6 seconds behind. All that Heineke needs to do is keep it going as the ongoing fight for second in class with 4 minutes and 25 seconds remaining. Platt versus Roth. Which one of these two are going to work out? BMW versus Honda NSX. The Honda will be able to navigate the corners much easier. But now with a bit of traffic of Finley Gamble in the way, Platt gives a quick flash of light saying, please mind out the way. He bails through. Finley Gamble goes and dives into the next realm to avoid these two as Barry keeps an eye. He knows he's rubbing his hands together. He's go fight, guys. Go and enjoy. Chris Wall is hoping for anything to happen to our sharp end of the field for the Platinum in the last little seconds of this race. He is hoping for everything. I'm not talking about minutes. He's counting down, even down to the final second, that something goes wrong between Platt and Roth, who are absolutely giving it their all. Last lap time by Roth a 1:34.5, Platt a 1:34.7. So Roth is that little bit quicker, but not necessarily finding his way past. Peterson trying to pull his way back up through the field after a drive-through penalty. And now Sosa trying to close down that gap. A little bit of a lap tap coming in from Roth onto the back of Platt. He is absolutely pushing to see if he can make it through. And it is going to be a wild, wild one for Platt to the Moscow Motorsports as Roth late on the brakes trying to go for the set. David Roth not wanting to lose out the drive now. He can feel there's an opportunity to go for it. Barry has closed up to them as well. So these two have stalled each other enough that the leader of the gold division going and closing up on the back of them. Barry, if he would like to do so, would be able to put his nose in and foul up the drive of one of these two drivers. Fifth gear, down into fourth, down into third, carries the momentum through. Platt just doing everything he can to slow it up on the apex, absolutely coming to a halt, trying to go and stop the Honda from getting any run at the moment. 2 minutes and 7 seconds left on the board as Roth runs out wide, trying to get that little bit of a run to Henry Platt. 0.2 of a second as they follow in tow. Barry, 0.7 on the back of them. Absolutely mental, down to the wire. And that is just one of the two battles going on. Chris Wall and Richard Panine fighting out. Richard looking for a second place here. He's 6 seconds behind Red Heidecke, who holds third in the Diamond class after Peterson, who landed up with a drive-through penalty, fighting out with Daniel Mutsuma just enough. Then putting a wheel wrong, trying to defend against Rafa Sosa, unfortunately sunk his race. Oh, contact into the back with David Roth into the back of Henry Platt. He does go and yield, allow Platt to retake, but that closed up Barry at a rate of knots, who had to hit the brakes. He had to go and say, whoa, hold on, folks, as now it is a charge down the inside. Platt ran out wide. He's trying to put a bit of pressure on Roth as it's side by side between the two. Fear the Bones versus Moscow Motorsport. BMW versus Honda. Germans versus Japan. Who has got the run? South Africa versus American. And David Roth hunts down every opportunity for second in class. There is every little bit on the table as Ernest Limburgs is on the final lap. Rafa, 24 seconds back. Roth goes to the inside, last minute to defend the line. Runs out wide, fouling up it was Platt to the inside, fouling up Roth. And now it's going to be Barry to go around the outside. Barry's going to try send it with Red Heidecke right on the tail. Henry Platt is just trying everything he can to foul up David Roth to make it work. This is nail-biting stuff. Red Heidecke, who holds on to third in class, fighting against Barry, who then defends the line. Barry saying, no, don't go for it. Then Red Heidecke manages to get the run on Barry Gibbons. This is a chase. This is wild. This is mental. And Heidecke can be in this fight that could come in as they fight their way through. It is mentally on as we do cut back to our leader. It is going to be Limburgs over the line, taking the victory in the Diamond Division with Rafa Sosa in second. But the fight for third, well, it's set to Daniel Mutsuma, who will win out his class. The question comes down, right down to the wire. Platt and Roth, who of these two have got that last little cent? Who's got enough in the tank to make it work? Henry Platt defends against the line. Roth looks to the inside. Heidecke will take third in his class. Mutsuma will take victory in the Platinum class. But the ongoing brawl right now is just absolutely all over one another. Roth to the outside. Platt throwing it everywhere he could to try and hold the line. Goes to the middle. Sends it around. Roth goes to that final charge around the outside. Contact with the two. Reminiscence of 2019 GT3. Henry Platt takes second. Roth into third. Heidecke takes third in his class. Barry Gibbons takes the victory ahead of Richard Fanierda. Chris Wall will take fourth place in his class, 9th overall. Christoph will take 10th, 4th in his class. Patrick Bells managing to get third in the gold division with David Young, Mahias Musa, David Christie. Drag races Serodio to the line, and it's David Christie beating out Serodio by 0.045. What a drag race between the two. Ulrich Dialga, Chris Beermister, Lewis Knight is the last to come across the line. Wow, wow, wow. What a race. And we'll be right back. And we are back with some of our highlights, and man, have we got to talk to our drivers after that. Holy wow! Whew. Out of breath, that's for certain. Right through, and we just giving our drivers a chance to pry themselves from the steering wheels to try and get themselves all sorted out before we bring them up for a bit of a chat. And go and talk about the race that they had, because it was mental of note. And we do have a couple of our drivers coming through, and let's bring them up to come and have a chat to us, starting with our Platinum division, and then we'll move on to our Diamonds. We've got Henry Platt, who managed to capture second place in a monster of a fight in the Platinum division. Henry, welcome to the commentary box. How are you feeling after that? I mean, what a race down to the wire.
Dude, I'm sweating. That was crazy. On the old tires, trying to defend like that. I didn't think I'm gonna make it, but yeah, that was so cool.
Now, let's start off at the start of the race. It was close neck and neck from the start. What was the plan going into this race to just try and get the jump on the field? We know Misano is a circuit that will eat your tires to absolute pieces. It's a cold circuit. What was your game plan now that you're saying that you were on the old set of tires right at the last?
I wasn't just on the old set, I didn't change tires. I did not have the info that you just told me. So I didn't think it should be too bad with the cold weather. So I just went for it. No tires because I had the 5 second penalty, a success penalty as well. So I had to try something to not lose positions in the pit.
Well, it definitely came down to the wire. Now we've got to talk about the end. David Roth and yourself, nose to tail battle. I mean, it was mental. David Roth leading out the championship. You're third, and you've managed to fight him out to that. Take us through that last 5 minutes to hear that you're on the last 5 minutes, and then even to hear the leader is on the final lap with a Honda, not just nipping at your heels, but taking an axe to the back of the knees at you.
Yeah, so I was obviously just trying to park it in the in the corners. Yeah, it did hit me a few times, but I mean it's difficult. I'm already braking more than usual. So the way we kept it clean was cool and still being aggressive. Both of us, me on the defense and him on the attack. No, that was awesome. That's probably one of the funnest races I've done this year. So yeah, that was awesome.
Definitely a great one to have, and I'm sure the Moscow Motorsport team will be quite proud of the efforts there. Not only you had a great run at Red Star Raceway with close fighting, but now in Sim, you managing to have a fight with the championship leader. You're able to move up in the points. You're tied with Chris Wall. You're going to be second in the points now. Is there anyone you want to say thank you to the admin behind the scenes here, to our partner overtake.gg, to the drivers, to the teams out there, and most importantly, I think you can agree with me, the absolute legends out in the virtual grandstands?
Yeah, obviously thanks to the usual people, everyone that organizes, everyone that's here, you streaming. And then a special thank you to my team. We had a wonderful weekend this weekend at Red Star. If all the sim guys, if anyone wants info, it's pretty cool. We race every 1.5 months with BMWs. So yeah, I'll share the links and stuff. But yeah, it was a pretty good week of racing. So thank you, man.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Henry Platt going and managing to hold on to second place ahead of David Roth right down to the wire. Now, let's bring in our winner of the Platinum. It's Daniel Mutsushima to take the victory, and let's have a chat to the incredible pace of the McLaren. Daniel, welcome to the commentary box. First in class, third overall, fighting with Christoph Peterson and Rafa Souza right at the end. You must be sweating after that and after such a stellar drive.
Yeah, I quite like Misano. Yeah, it was. I was really obviously that I don't know how much penalties the guys had at the pit stops, but I didn't expect, obviously, when I pitted early to be coming out with those guys. I was just trying to get ahead of David Roth, who I don't know whether I was or not, but I felt like I was losing a bit of time behind. So yeah, it was great fun, and obviously it's quite rare for me to get to race with those guys. And I think for a little bit, I was I was giving them a run for their money.
You most certainly were giving a hard chase and a hard defend. We've seen you in the past able to go door to door, but when it was coming down to the wire, to see that you are holding on to first place in the Platinum Division, what was running through your head? Because you've had a bit of an up and down season. Indianapolis, you scored points. Kyalami wasn't able to score points. Valencia didn't work out for you, but come to Misano and you're flat at the top, third overall. It must have been, this is great.
Yeah, I guess it is a track which I do for some reason, I don't know why, but find easier and have done in like all the cars that I've driven. But I guess just qualifying a bit higher up on the grid's made a big difference for me this week, because usually I'm like somewhere between kind of 16th and 22nd on the grid, and that's where the action is, isn't it? So yeah, being up in, I don't know, what did I qualify, 6th or 7th or something, and being able to take it relatively calmly, and just it's just not as busy. It's not as busy at that part of the part of the start.
Well, it was absolutely great to see the battles, and please, thank you for fighting out against the Diamonds. It was actually quite fun to watch. But anything you would like to say to everyone in the background, to our partner, to all the drivers and teams out there that you got to go door to door with here on the circuit, and most importantly to those out in the grandstand that got to see the proper racing McLaren onto the podium, not only just in class but overall.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot. Sorry for being grumpy. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to racing Misano again I think it's the beginning of the Endurance Series, isn't it? So hopefully I'll get to race that as well. But yeah, thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. The streams are epic. It's brilliant.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Dan, thanks for everything, and enjoy the celebrations. You most certainly earned it.
Thanks very much.
A victory for Daniel, moving him up, but third place in a fight of notes in the Platinum. Just joining us after prying his hands off the steering wheel. VTEC kicked in, but wasn't enough to get ahead of the BMW. David Roth, welcome to the commentary box. How are you feeling after that mad dash for the last little bit of the race? You and Henry Platt threw everything, haymakers, kitchen sink, scud missiles, everything at one another for that second place. Take us through the race for you.
I knew I had to outrun a 15-second penalty. There was no getting around that. I had pretty good pace, qualified decently high enough, and the rest of my first stint, I just had free air to do whatever I wanted. The beginning of that second stint, I knew I had a pretty big deficit to make up, but I managed to reel Platt in. I don't even know what the gap was. And I knew it was going to be a fight. He's a good driver. His defense is always crazy. You really have to work to get by him. And unfortunately, he kept me slow in all the sectors that I was fast in. And on the straights, that BMW's got all the legs. I couldn't do a damn thing.
Well, we saw into the corners. He was stopping it dead like a bus picking up passengers. And you trying to figure out your way. When it got into the last 5 minutes, what was running through your head, if anything? When you 0.2 of a second, you're in this run, 4-second in class. Daniel's a little too far up the road, but it's now the last 5 minutes. So we've usually seen you right at the top of the field fighting against the pros. You actually did that against your own teammate with Limburg's early on in the race. But now going and seeing what 5 minutes... second place, 0.2 of a second, coming down to a car that is stopping dead on apexes. It must have been surely frustrating, if anything.
Oh, I mean, of course, I knew that I was I was a lap faster when I was playing catch up, and I knew I had the pace. But unfortunately, I mean, if I can't get the runs out of the corners, then there's nothing I can do about it. I was a blank slate. I wasn't really thinking about anything other than what line I'm going to take, where he's going to be, if he's going to make a mistake, keep the pressure on. Just sweating, just sweating. It was a drive. That was one hell of a drive.
Well, you got third place and the fastest lap for your class, so the extra point going in the bag. But it looks like a championship getting a little bit tighter to the end. Anything you'd like to say to everyone out on the track with you, to the teams, the drivers, to our partner Overtake.gg, but also to everyone in the virtual grandstand that I think everyone was holding their breath. Everyone was waiting to see what happens, and by the end of it, we all needing to go and take an ice cold shower to cool off after the action.
Well, I mean, to the other drivers, I want to say thank you for the great clean racing. It was fun racing against Matashima. It was fun racing against Platt. To Fangler and all of our staff, really appreciate what they do for us here. I love this league. This is a ton of fun. It's the highlight of my week. And for anybody watching, I mean, get yourself a rig and hop in, even if it's a desk-mounted wheel. You know, we'd love to have you.
Well, you're the case in point of that. Desk-mounted, having fun, and seeing where it can go. David Roth, thank you so much for joining us. Congrats on the third place, and what a mad dash to the end. You had me out of breath there, buddy. Well done.
Thanks, Stephen. Take care.
David Roth having a stellar run. We don't have any of our gold drivers, but well done to third place, Patrick Bells, along with Richard Van Heerden taking second place and Barry Gibbons taking first place. Let's bring in third place in the diamond division, and wasn't quite expecting it, but going to be through the roof. Usually supporting everyone else. Ruin Heineke, third place in the diamond division. How are you feeling after that?
Hi, Stephen. No, I'm very stoked for that position. Got a bit lucky there with Christoph Peterson getting a drive in the end. But what a hectic race. Great start, clean racing. Well done. Especially those boys up ahead of me with that big fight. I think David Roth and Henry Platt. Awesome to watch.
Well, that being said, you got involved in the fight at the end. Barry Gibbons, yourself, David Roth, Henry Platt, all over one another. Was it through the mind of, hang on, I've got to come a little bit off the gas here because I've got something to lose in the fight? Or was it, no, I need to charge up through the order because Red Mist, got to be fourth?
It occurred to me to try and push past them. But those banks is like a battle, and at that stage, I had nothing to lose. Already secured P3. There's nobody near me, so just watching the fight up ahead.
Well, an absolute great one. And when you got to see the drive-through penalty come in for Christoph Peterson, what went through your mind there? Because I'm sure it wasn't oh no, bad luck, oh shucks, I feel bad for you at the time. I'm sure there was a little bit more excitement and enthusiasm, suddenly seeing, hang on, I have a podium chance right here. I've just got to give that last push to make it happen.
To be honest, yes, actually I did have a small chuckle there. Sort of drive through, and especially when he came out of the pits, he was way behind. You wouldn't catch up again with the closing laps of the race. Well, so I got a bit lucky there, but so is racing.
And that's racing. Anything can happen. And the Griffin Sim Racing team up onto the podium. Before I let you go, anything you want to say to the teams, to the drivers, to our partner here at ERA, but also to everyone out in the virtual grandstands? Crazy Stunts was busy shouting out, as you know, going and taking a helmet, going and wishing the Griffin Sim Racing team. Usually Antonio Gamble going and saying, good luck, Griffin Sim Racing team. Not here tonight, but I'm sure going and wishing on a message to you all the way from South Africa.
As always, a big thanks for our South African supporters. There's quite a lot in the stands always supporting us, what we do. It's always nice to see them after the race, talking to them. And well done for Limburgs for winning this race. It was an awesome race to actually see all the fights all around. And just thank you for everybody. And especially for your stream, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Ruin Heineke going and having a stellar run and placing third finally managing to move onto the podium. Going to be a beautiful run to him. Let's talk to a driver that got first overall, first in class, had a little bit of pressure at the start. Ernest Limburgs, welcome to the commentary box. The McLaren finally got you on the podium, right into first place. How are you feeling after that one? I know this car has nearly met the end of an angle grinder more than once.
Yay. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy about it. Finally, the McLaren felt all right at a track, and yeah, it gives me my first win in it.
Well, a stellar run. Not only did you get the first win, but you also got the fastest lap time of the race on the second last lap, a 1:33.017, meaning that you're taking all the points in the championship for the Diamond Division for this round, and really going and putting a bit of pressure on the rest of the field. You came in tied with Mahath Musa with 5th and 6th, but now you're managing to capture a full set of points that moves you ahead of Milestone, moves you ahead of Sean Skitter, and now really looking at the back of Rafa Sosa, possibly evening out on points. What was the game plan coming into this race? Because it looked like it was going to be, well, you and your teammate working together at the start. Despite him with a 15-second penalty, you made dead sure that he's not going to get the run at the start. You're going to stay there, and you're going to fight tooth and nail to the very end.
Yeah, I mean, during the race, I knew that they both had a lot of penalties, so no matter what happened, like in the first stint, I would be ahead most likely after the pit stops. But yeah, like when I qualified P1, Peterson was faster than me in the first stint. He was also on new tires. I was on my quali tires. But yeah, we just kind of fought for fun. Like we both knew that he was gonna fall back, but it was just fun fighting for the fun of it, you know. That's why we're here. We come here to race, and when the opportunity arises, we take it.
Well, the Fear the Bones definitely had the start of the race, but going and seeing the checkered flag, getting to see that after all the hard work, after all the hard luck you've had this season with the new car, getting to come across and seeing that checkered flag waving at you, saying, you've made it, you've got it. It must have been a host of emotions of just finally the McLaren just spoke to you.
Yeah, I'm really happy that finally at least one track on the calendar actually felt good in the McLaren. It really just instantly clicked. Like in the first practice laps, it just clicked instantly. I was right on pace, and yeah, I kept it through the race. The only thing was that the tire wear was pretty bad in it. That's probably because the traction control isn't as good, and the track itself is really hard on the rears. But other than that, I managed to keep it together. The car itself was really safe to drive. Yeah, I'm happy about it.
Well, it keeps the championship fight alive as you are the defending champion. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations here at Misano, anything you would like to say to all the drivers, to the teams, to your team, Fear the Bones, that have been on a hard push of late to really go and escalate, to go up through the racing echelons, but also, you can agree with me, to legendary people out on the virtual grandstands here at ERA supporting us day in, day out, and being part of the show for every single race through both servers.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Stephen, for commentating. It's always good to look back at the stream. Thanks to all the admins who make this possible, also the drivers who also make this possible. Without them, there wouldn't be a league to drive in. Yeah, I mean, thanks to all the viewers who watch this, and yeah, unfortunate for Peterson to get that drive through, but he also gets no penalties going into the next round, so I'm guessing that's gonna be another big win for him. But you know, anything can happen. There are some crazy curbs in the next round, and yeah, congratulations to Ron for getting a podium, and to Souza for also getting a podium.
Well, it was a great one to see, and we look forward to seeing what you can do next time out, and hopefully able to put yet another victory underneath your belt in the Simbergs, taking P1 in his class, and what a run on his part. Finally, the McLaren working out. It's been months and months and months of working on the car, and brand new car, fighting for the championship. Never an easy one to do, but Limburg's finally cracking it right, and can't wait to see how it all works out in the coming season. Well, with that being said, folks, we got to say a farewell to the beautiful circuit of Misano out in Italy. We've gone to Valencia, we've gone to Misano, but we say farewell to the European countryside, and we go hello to the UK side as round 5 on the 24th of May. We head out to Alton Park, but not just any Alton Park. We're going and racing into the evening, folks. It is going to be lights on for every car in the grid on a circuit that likes to put every car on the grid off into the countryside, all visiting the lake, heading into turn 5. And you can catch all of that on the 24th of May, same time, 8 o'clock South African time, 7 o'clock UK time. But we do have a race on Thursday, May 21st. So it's a sprint race. Feel free to join us. Just head over to our Discord in the link below. Join up with our Discord, and we've also got training sessions as well to go and help out. Whether you're a veteran that wishes to hand some of the information over that you've learned over the course of your sim racing career, but also if you're a brand spanking new, if you've just got yourself a rig, got yourself a steering that's clamped onto the desk, and you want to learn from the best in the world, well, our training sessions run on the weekly basis as well. Plus, head over to SimGrid and look up Evolution Racing Academy, as we have got an endurance season coming out working with RaceFace.pro with our first round on the 31st of May. Get your mates, join up, get ready to have some fun as we take on the circuits with longer races, and we get to see the battles all around. Who's got the stamina to run the extra mile? Well, first, they have to get past the 24th right here of the ERA Sunday Championship. Folks, it's been a great one. From myself, Stephen Koenig, and from the entire THT team, we have got Tim on cameras. We've got Jim, who is handing out the flags and the penalties, unfortunately, as well. And we'd like to say a special thank you to all our admins and stewards behind the scenes at keeping us going. Also, shout out to the drivers and teams fighting out this evening. It was great to have. And please do take a look at our partner, overtake.gg, for all the incredible sim racing articles to keep you up to date on what is happening. All things sim racing and a little bit of sim driving. But folks, it's been a great one, and we look forward to seeing you next time. It's wonderful to be back. And like always, a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and good night, everybody.